right, today is July 6th, 2013. We are here in the Bighorns National Park. I'm Rebecca Monaretto.
I'm Ben Woolley.
Kara O'Haron. Maddie Shu.
And this is Michael Adams. And Michael, would you like to tell us your story?
Okay, well, I have multiple myeloma, which is a cancer of the bone marrow. Similar to, but different from leukemia and lymphomas. I was diagnosed almost exactly 2 years ago this month through a bone marrow biopsy, and since then I have gone through an initial round of chemotherapy, what's called an autologous bone marrow stem cell transplant, which means that my own stem cells were transplanted back into me. I went into a complete remission for 7 months. The cancer came back last November, and since then I've been through 3 different types of chemotherapy. The most recent one, I'm just finishing up now. I just finished the IV chemo a few days ago, and I'm finishing up the oral chemo drug that I take. I have 4 more days of that to take, and this one seems to be working. It's really reduced the cancer significantly. I will probably go into the hospital at the end of this month for another bone marrow stem cell transplant, my own stem cells, and then once I've recovered from that, I will go into the hospital for a donor transplant. I have a donor identified, so I will get a donor immune system transplanted probably sometime in late fall, and that has a chance of curing me of the cancer. So that's where I am right now with this. This is considered to be a treatable but ultimately fatal and uncurable cancer, but the donor stem cell transplant is a risky but possibly curative therapy that they will use. I've been through, right now I feel quite healthy, although I'm anemic and I have a lowered immune system, so I have to be very careful about that. And I have been, up until I got the cancer, I've been very athletic. I've been a mountain climber, a rock climber, a runner. I can no longer run. I can hike, but not anywhere near like what I used to do. I couldn't go and climb a mountain right now. But I'm fortunate. My wife is an incredible support person for me. I have a great family network and a great network of friends, which I think are critical for anybody fighting cancer. Is a support network. So I'm fortunate. It's strange. It's a funny thing to say that you're fortunate when you have cancer, but I am fortunate. I have seen people that are much worse off than I am, much sicker than I am, and I've seen people that are much younger than me that are much sicker than I am, which is really, a terrible thing to see. When I go in for chemotherapy into the infusion room, which is what they call it, which is a large room in the clinic that's with probably 40 couches, that people sit at, and they get IV chemotherapy, and people of all ages. And it's terrible to see young people in their 20s that are in there and battling cancer. At least I wasn't diagnosed with cancer until I was in my 60s, and so I've had a full life. And to see that somebody who's in their 20s really makes me humble.
I guess I have a question for you. So we're out here in the Bighorns camping at the moment. Was this kind of something you planned before this second kind of round of treatment started, or is it something to kind of, I don't know, I guess take your mind off it, or?
Well, last summer after the transplant, when I went into remission, I really thought that I would have probably 5 years or more. Once I was told that I was in a complete remission, that there was no detectable cancer, um, it seemed like it was reasonable for me to assume I'd have 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. I mean, that's pretty common after a transplant before cancer returns. I mean, it ultimately does return, but anymore it can be extended. That can be extended to 10 years. So I really thought I had really kicked it for a long time. And last summer I did a big river trip on the Green River, a whitewater rafting trip. My wife and I had talked about going to Alaska this summer. Then the cancer came back, and we still thought we could do that. We thought, well, okay, if I go through the chemo and the chemo knocks the cancer down enough, I can go through transplant again in the wintertime, and I'll be healthy enough in the summer to do that. But the first chemo they tried on me didn't work. The second chemo they tried on me didn't work. And the second chemo was sort of the real, it was often considered like the last line, the one that they do it last, because it's so difficult on you. I mean, I had to go into the hospital 4 different times for 96 straight hours of IV chemo. I just had to be hooked up to a drip in the hospital for 96 straight hours. They were dripping chemo drugs into me. And then after that, I was sick for 3 weeks after each treatment. 1 week to get better, and then they did it again. And that didn't work either. I mean, I was, I really thought that was it. I mean, they tried everything that there was to try, and it wasn't working. And then they tried these 2 new drugs that were just approved by the FDA in February, and they have worked miraculously, to knock the cancer down. So we hadn't been able to plan anything because we didn't know. I mean, we didn't know if I'd be alive. I was told at one point that my chances of being alive in a year were 1 in 3. I was told that I'd probably be dead in 3 months. So I was told a number of things, and we thought, well, Alaska, we can't plan that. We can't get airplane tickets or anything like that, make reservations. So we thought, well, let's just, once we realized that this treatment was working, and we knew I'd be going back in for transplant, we thought, let's just take a road trip. I mean, we both love to camp. We both love being out in the mountains. So let's just take a road trip and go up to Montana, to Glacier National Park. I had not been to Glacier in over 40 years, and my wife's never been there, so we thought, let's just do that. That way we don't have to make any reservations, any plans or anything. And it turned out that our friends Adrian and Deborah are here. We're going to be up here climbing, so we decided to stop in the Bighorns for a couple days, camp here, and then we'll just drive up to Glacier. Tomorrow we'll leave and probably take a couple days to drive up to Glacier, spend about 4 or 5 days up there, and then drive back. When we get back, I will be, I'll probably be talking to my transplant coordinator. Once we get out of here and get cell phone service next week, I'll probably be talking to the nurse coordinator and find out what plans the transplant doctor has for me. But it seems likely at this point he'll want to take me in for transplant probably the last week in this month, which will mean I'll be in the hospital for 3 weeks.
So I guess too then, it seems like your attitude's kind of that, in between around a chemo and a transplant, you're still going out and doing stuff. Is that kind of an attitude you've had the whole time? Is that, have you let it kind of affect your life at all, or have you tried to carry on as much as?
I don't